You can roughly locate any community in the world, somewhere along a scale running all the way from democracy to despotism.
Now, by the way, anytime you hear the United States government talking about wiretap, a wiretap requires a court order. Nothing has changed, by the way. When we're talking about chasing down terrorists, we're talking about getting a court order before we do so. Constitutional guarantees are in place when it comes to doing what is necessary to protect our homeland because we value the Constitution.
Hi, America. This is your wake-up call. This is your wake-up call.
Ladies and gentlemen, there can be little doubt that we're in a constitutional crisis that threatens the system of checks and balances that have preserved our fundamental freedoms for over 200 years.
Wake up, America. Wake up.
Let's find out about despotism. This man makes it his job to study these things.
Well, for one thing, avoid the comfortable idea that the mere form of government can of itself safeguard a nation against despotism.
It is against the law, of course, to eavesdrop or wiretap U.S. citizens in this country without a court order from a federal judge. But the New York Times says that is exactly what the president has authorized the government to do since 9/11.
A power scale is another important yardstick of despotism. It gauges the citizens' share in making the community's decisions. Communities which concentrate decision-making in a few hands rate low on a power scale and are moving towards despotism.
Do I have the legal authority to do this? And the answer is absolutely.
Well, when the president does it, that means that it is not illegal.
And here's the concern I have. We can't become an outcome-based democracy. Even in a time of war, you have to follow the process because that's what a democracy is all about, a process.
If a community's economic distribution becomes slanted, its middle-income groups grow smaller, and despotism stands a better chance to gain a foothold.
You know, they're cutting back on education, they're cutting back on health care, they're cutting back on housing, and it's becoming, all for the rich and nothing for the middle class or the poor. And it's not right.
My faith in the Constitution is whole, it is complete, it is total. And I am not going to sit here and be an idle spectator to the diminution, the subversion, the destruction of the Constitution. My faith in the Constitution is whole, it is complete, it is total. And I am not going to sit here and be an idle spectator to the diminution, the subversion, the destruction of the Constitution.
Anytime you hear the United States government talking about wiretap, a wiretap requires a court order. Nothing has changed, by the way. When we're talking about chasing down terrorists, we're talking about getting a court order before we do so.
The test of despotic power is that it can disregard the will of the people. It rules without the consent of the governed.
Under this theory, we no longer have a constitutional system consisting of three co-equal branches of government. We have a monarchy.
When legislatures become ceremonial assemblies only and have no real control over lawmaking, their community rates low on a power scale.
We have a Congress who has been very reluctant to stand up to the president in any way and completely abdicated their oversight responsibilities on almost every single front.
Constitutional lawyer Glenn Greenwald on the telephone. Tell me about your book, man.
The title of the book is How Would the Patriot Act? There's been a lot of discussion about scandals like the NSA eavesdropping scandal or the detention of U.S. citizens without a trial, use of torture. The fact that what's at the root of all of those scandals is that we have an administration that has adopted expressly the theory that the president, with regard to all matters concerning national security, has the right to do anything without interference from the Congress or the courts, which includes the right to break the law.
Yeah, well, that ain't right. All right, Glenn Greenwald, good luck with your book, available at Amazon.com.
A community rates low on an information scale when the press, radio, and other channels of communication are controlled by only a few people. In communities of this kind, despotism stands a good chance.
When the operation of the machine becomes so odious, makes you so sick at heart that you can't take part. You can't even passively take part. And you've got to put your bodies upon the gears and upon the wheels, upon the levers, upon all the apparatus, and you've got to make it stop. And you've got to indicate to the people who run it, to the people who own it, that unless you're free, the machine will be prevented from working at all.
What sort of community do you live in? Where would you place it on a democracy-despotism scale?
If this were a dictatorship, it'd be a heck of a lot easier. Just so long as I'm the dictator.
UPI reports that a former NSA official has testified before Congress about another bigger secret domestic spying program.
Whoa.
The Electronic Frontier Foundation filed a class action suit alleging that AT&T is giving the federal government access to all its customers' internet and phone communications.
What the?
Do we have time for one more?
There's more?
Oh yeah. Newsweek is reporting that the Pentagon has its own top secret domestic spying program. In fact, they already got busted spying on anti-war protests, student groups, church meetings, and even a Halliburton protest.
Oh, because God forbid we should protest the war profiteers.
Yeah. The U.S. military is spying on U.S. citizens on U.S. soil.
They're probably eavesdropping on us right now.
Wake up, America. Wake up.
I mean, for crying out loud, they could see fit to impeach a president for lying about having an extramarital affair. But Democrats don't have the guts to stand up to censure a president who misled us, who lied to the American people, and who broke the law and violated the Constitution of the United States in spying on American people. Now, I tell you, we've got to give some more backbone. We need to hear from people. The American people need to know and to show support for this resolution.